It's not so much the bit going in his mouth as the
It's going over his ears, is it?
bridle going over his ears. If we can get it over that one first.
Ah, well done, well done.
There we are.
What progress.
Biggie Lumsa and Chatham Chahagan were best Misha Air, Ilian Jersey.
Agus pe sin ar fad le feiscintan sa TG ceir iad dána ag an néachlog.
Hey, chicken the gear la rec ex ga had place to Gary from.
Inis dún faoi dachtar is déanaí sór lechra uncle
Jay mar yalla can.
Hello there. This massive showground in Peterborough is host to one of the largest antique fairs in the country. There are nearly 2,000 stands and the organisers are expecting 15,000 people to attend. So our bargain hunters have got to be pretty nifty. They each get £300 and an hour to shop for up to 3 objects we take away and sell at auction. They're apparently impossible to get hold of without the help of a young maiden. Always a difficult thing to find when you really need one. Anyway, in the hall in a minute, I'm going to show you what appears to be a horn for a real unicorn. Curiouser and curious. Addington Hall dates way back to Saxon times, and so important with the unicorn's beauty and virtue that the family incorporated it into their crest. Now, the most valuable part of a unicorn, surprise, surprise, is its horn, and descriptions of these crop up in stately home inventories and in churches through the ages. But is the one at Adlington real? And if so, why is it here? Like many homes, Adlington's remaining collection is a reflection of gifts and artefacts best loved by the family. As with every country house collection, you come across some natural history specimens. An enormous swordfish blade. In fact, the elongated jaw of the swordfish, which isn't used for slashing around in the water to beat its enemies, but apparently to sift through the sand on the bottom to get it some more grub. So, it wasn't any great surprise, therefore, that the Lee family jumped at the chance of acquiring their unicorn horn. Look at this extraordinary thing. 9 feet in length, that's 3 meters worth, that might have been applied to the front of a unicorn's head galloping through the woodland. Unicorn horn has mythical properties. If you grind it up, you can apparently detect poison. It's also supposed to have aphrodisiac powers, except this isn't unicorn's horn. It is in fact real bone, the bone of a mammal, a whale-like mammal called the narwhal. Narwhals are a type of tusked whale found living in the Arctic and in the North Sea. But if there are no real unicorns, narwhals are also called the unicorns of the sea, occasionally seen jousting on the surface. Only the males have horns, possibly of a statement of their sexual prowess. Well, it may not be the horn of a real unicorn, but it's certainly got properties for me. Where's the auction today, then? This is where the action is. This is where the auction is. One of the nice things about cruising the UK for bargain hunt is coming across regional variations. And you often find it with particular types of chairs. And this is a very particular chair to this part of Norfolk. It's something called a Mendlesham chair, after the village of Mendlesham, which is about 5 miles south of Diss, where our sale room is today. It was made between about 1790 and 1830 by a particular family called the Day family. They were chair makers, and they'd go into the surrounding forests picking up local timbers. So you don't find Mendlesham chairs using expensive mahogany, you find them using local timber. So we've got a dished elm seat. Looks uncomfortable, but actually when you sit in it, it's very comfortable. And the rest of the chair is made up of fruit woods, apple and pear and local timbers, usually with a line of stringing or two in holly. And Mendlesham chairs always follow a particular pattern. They have a vaguely rectangular back, slightly tapering rectangular back. They always have 5 balls, normally 3 under the top rail and a couple in the middle. Sometimes the variety of splat changes. If this was a chair that had been made for a wedding, that splat might be filled with a heart. In this case, it's just got some ripple piercings in it. And if you look at the front edge of this one, it's all corroded on the outside edge. The buyer of this chair will be delighted to see that, because it's just where the woodworm has eaten the sap, that soft, fleshy bit of the timber on that leading front edge. So what are they worth? Well, there's a group of 5. That doesn't necessarily mean they all match, because they don't, but they're very, very similar. And in another sale room outside this county of Norfolk, I would see them estimated at perhaps £400 to £600, because they are a bit rough around the edges. But here, because it's in dis and it's in the right place at the right time, the auction estimate is £1,600 to £2,400. And I reckon that the locals are going to compete pretty strongly for these. Still, if all 5 of these make £1,600 to £2,400, I dare say there'll be 3 chairs in the sale room. We're at Thomas Gaze's auction house in Dis in Norfolk with Elizabeth Talbot, auctioneer. Elizabeth, very nice to see you.
Thank you, and yourself?
We've got to remember that the experts and the teams are hanging on our every word. Great. Now, Natalie and Jeff, the Reds, they went for this 1920s tricycle, which is an extraordinary object, really, isn't it?
Well, it actually looks rather familiar, this one, I have to say. I do believe we've seen this little one before.
No. Oh, no. Not the very same trike.
Very same one, and sold this year, actually, here.
Never. No.
Well, it was last entered into a special collection of bikes which we had in the Royal Domestic Bygone sale, and at that point we sold it for the magnificent sum of £75 in the context of a special sale.
Did you really? 75 quid? Well, our lot paid £115, and your estimate is £30 to £40.
Well, that's the bad news.
Oh.
No.
The bell's worth that alone.
The previous price reflected it was in a specialist context, and we've got it now into a special antique sale, and it's the only bicycle, so whether we'll attract the right sort of bidders, that's the crux of the matter.
Isn't that
We're going
interesting?
to do better.
The cruel hand of fate.
I'm confident. I'm still confident.
Now, the oak Victorian stationery box.
Yes.
This is rather more sort of staple fare, isn't it, in the auctions?
It is. We see a lot of these, but the colour of the oak I don't particularly like. It's a bit orangey
Don't
to
you?
me.
I quite like
Do you?
that,
All right.
actually. Well, I don't know. Pale
But
oak
like-
used to be completely foul stuff, didn't it? Nobody'd buy it at all, but it's
that's
sort of coming
that's
back.
like smoked haddock.
Was it?
That's a little orange for me,
Okay,
but that's
fine.
only taste.
Very good.
But I still think it should do about £70 to £100.
Not quite good enough. They paid 100 for it, actually.
Right.
I think it's lovely.
They did think about swapping it, but they decided not, because the swap item which James came up with was this little cranberry flashed silver-rimmed dish. Do you like that?
I quite like that too. It's an unusual piece of cranberry. Now, cranberry is very collectible. As a coloured colour of glass, cranberry is notoriously collectible. And if you combine silver with glass, you actually add a premium, which always seems to sort of set people alight.
We like the sound of a premium.
Yeah,
Oh.
and I like the shape of that too. It's very pretty. We think it should make to £40 to £60.
Oh, well, that's fantastic.
Yes.
£45. The only problem was they didn't swap for it. They hung on to this, which your estimate is £70 to £100 for the
Yes.
stationery cabinet. So perhaps on the face of it anyway, they should have swapped for it at 45.
No.
And the last item is the little Victorian silver golfing fob. Now that's a charming little thing, isn't it?
It is, although it's not as early as Victorian.
Isn't it?
No.
Ah.
Two positives. The fact it's golfing related is very good.
Yes.
And secondly, the fact that it is a little fob that is sort of scientifically linked in the form of a compass.
Yes.
So it's obviously how golfers find their balls, I don't know. But I mean,
I think, Elizabeth, we won't go there, darling. Thank you very much.
but it's a nice collectible thing. And
Yes.
in good order, and so we still think 40 to 60 pounds on that one.
Oh dear, well that's a bit of a gloomy note to finish on, frankly, because they paid 85, 40 to 60 then is the estimate on the golfing fob, which is a shame, really.
It'll be all on the stationery box. If we can get near the money on that, I think we're all right.
Yeah, I'm confident still.
Now the blue team, okay, Paul and Helen, they had a good time. This solid silver inkwell, now that's a junk, isn't it?
I think that's superb. I think that's wonderful. As a capstan inkstand, that is just so...
Do you see that sitting on your desk, Elizabeth?
If my desk were big enough, I'd have that.
So, how much?
We would think about 110 to 160 pounds.
Oh, good enough, they paid 170.
Not bad, no, not
Good.
bad.
Yeah.
They're popular though, are they?
They're quite rare. They're quite rare but popular, yes.
At that price. Okay, now the Tunbridge Wear letter opener jobby.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This is the expert swap.
I think it's pretty and sweet, but I don't think it's all that exciting, to be honest. I don't think that it is Tunbridge Wear in the true form of it. I think it's even possibly Continental copy.
Okay, we trusted you.
Hang on, hang on.
I don't think it's tight enough quality of inlay there on the colour. And
It's not for you then, it's not for your money.
No.
How much
I'd
money are
not.
you going to put on it then?
I'd say
Stand by.
15 to 25 pounds.
Okay, well, £33 is the swap amount, actually. Anyway, they took it on board and they got rid of their swallow brooch.
Yes.
Is that swallow brooch any good?
It's pretty, and it's nice to have this little addendum with a little pearl at the bottom.
Yeah.
I always think this type of jewellery should be very sellable and commercial at the moment because it's timeless, really. But strange enough, we are finding that it's a little flat. So consequently, we kept this low at sort of 25 to 40 pounds.
Well, they paid 50, of course.
I think she's been a bit mean. What do you think, Helen?
I think we swapped it, so I don't care.
So I would say, on the face of it, that it was a good swap, actually, to get out of the little brooch and get into
Yes,
the
well, probably
Tunbridge.
from that point of view, it's
When
good,
there may be
yes.
more collectors about of something that is Tunbridge-like.
Yes.
The silver and enamel 1930s cigarette case.
Yes.
I mean, that's good, bright 30s green, isn't it?
It is, and that's very typical of the time. And the guilloche enamel, the sort of engraved silver, which has this sort of enamel layered over the top so you can see the effect of the pattern through, is in lovely order. That's often chipped. So
Yes.
the fact it's in nice order is good. And that's all ready to gift wrap, isn't it? I mean,
Isn't
it's a nice thing.
Oh, she likes it.
Yes, I do like
Okay,
that.
so how much?
That one, 40 to 60 pounds.
Dear, £70.
Oh.
You might be struggling to make profit on that, mightn't you?
I think so, just a little bit.
You're going to be taking the sale?
I hope to, definitely, yes.
Very good. Well, we'll stand by for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Now, Natalie, Jeff, James, how you feeling? All right? Yeah. Are you? Did you enjoy your little viewing beforehand? Well, you got the estimate of 30 to 40 on the trike, didn't you?
Yeah, I think they're a little bit off.
You think they're a bit
Yeah.
off?
Yeah,
What do you think they might be?
I think it should be exceeded.
Really? Okay. £115 is what you paid. Got a bit carried away, didn't you, quietly?
Well,
Bargain.
well, it had Jeff's name on it, didn't it?
You did, actually. No, it had to be the bicycling job. Okay, first up is going to be the trike, and it's coming up next. Here we go.
1920s ladies loop frame tricycle there with a Bington axle, as you see it. And I do have interest on this one here.
Oh, good.
I'll start at just £20. £20. 22, 25, 28 and 30, 2, 35, 38 and 40, 2, 45.
This is the front hall at Glyn, which is particularly remarkable for its splendid glassed work, probably done by Dublin plasterers in the early 1780s. And it was then when my ancestor, Colonel John Fitzgerald, built the house. And you can see him there resplendent in this rather banner-like portrait. I'm showing him in his uniform of the Royal Glyn Artillery, a cannon on the right-hand side. And the plasterwork here shows, in many cases, the symbols of the martial spirit of the 1780s. You see the cannon, bows and arrows, and little shields or pelter, which are surmounted by shamrocks. And it is, I think, the first time the shamrock is used as a nationalist symbol in the Irish decorative arts. So over the doors, you also can see the bayonet stands of one of those regiments in the late 1780s and early 1790s. The Fitzgerald family were what are called Old English or Norman families, and they were descended from a redoubtable Welsh princess called Nesta. And if you see over here, there is a portrait of my great aunt, also called Nesta. Well, Nesta had 4 children, I think, by her husband Gerald, hence the name Fitzgerald, and she had a bastard son by the king, Henry I, who was called Milo Fitzhenry, and 2 or 3 other children, I think, by the Constable of Cardigan. So her fertility was certainly remarkable, and she was quite a girl. She was known, I think, in later day, or nicknamed in later day, the brood mare of the Normans.
The library, with its ancient tombs and manuscripts, is itself a testament to the work of Irish craftsmen and artists. During the early 1800s, however, the Fitzgeralds of Glynn, like many of their contemporaries, suffered a serious reversal of fortune. With the bailiffs hammering at the door, many works of art had to be sold to save the ancestral home. Desmond Fitzgerald has made it his life's work to recover what can be found of the family heirlooms.
Funnily enough, things come back to houses, I think. This was a Fitzgerald plate, for example, that I found many years ago in New York. And I've spent a great deal of time trying to bring back things to Glynn which show the splendor of Irish decorative arts and Irish decorative arts and Irish craftsmanship. For example, this plate is by a Dublin maker called Delamay, and you can see it's got the Irish harp and crown on the back, who was working a Delft factory in Dublin in the 1750s and 60s. And they are superlative pieces of blue and white pottery. And also these hall chairs, which have the wild boar and the little castle on the back, painted by probably a carriage painter. And what's amusing is that in the next generation, the Colonel's son, who recouped the family fortunes a good deal, copied the family crest of 2 towers, little 2-towered castle, down as a folly just in front of the house.
As with all the great country houses, etiquette and presentation are always to the fore at Glynn Castle. These are not affectations, they stem from a tradition which is even older than the castle itself. Throughout the Limerick countryside, the mark of the Fitzgerald family can be seen almost everywhere, from Shannon Castle, built by Thomas Fitzgerald in 1210, to Escatine Friary, founded in 1420 by the 6th Earl of Desmond, James Fitzgerald. Further along the Shannon estuary lies Scattery Island, which until the recent past had been inhabited for over 1,500 years. In the year 530, a monastic settlement was established on Scattery, which went on to become one of the great Christian centres of Ireland. Scholars from all over Europe flocked here, and the ruins of its 6 churches still bear witness to a venerable age of piety and learning. In 1811, fearing an invasion by Napoleon's forces, a gun battery was built on the island as part of the nationwide defense system designed by Martello, whose towers still survive today. Finally, in 1843, a small fishing village appeared on Scattery, funded by the considerable proceeds of shipwreck salvage. This community, which was built by the Shannon's River pilots, survived right up to the early 1960s. Since then, the island has remained uninhabited and, for the most part, untouched. An archaeologist's dream. North of Glynn, across the Shannon in County Clare, lies some of the most remarkable terrain in Europe, the limestone moonscape of the Burren. Here, the accidents of geology, history and climate have created a completely unique ecosystem. At first glance, it's not immediately obvious, but on closer inspection, the most diverse plant species share the space between the rocks.
The Burren is Carboniferous limestone, and that is a sedimentary rock which was formed under the sea millions and millions and millions of years ago, when this was a shallow, warm, slimy sea teeming with life. And that life, if you like, was compressed and became fossilized, and that's really the core of the Carboniferous limestone. Our last glaciation occurred very recently, only about 10,000 years ago. And prior to that, you had a very warm climate here in which the southern plants and animals lived. The next thing, a glaciation occurred. And as the ice cap moved in here, it brought with it, if you like, seeds of a northern flora. And one of the great mystiques of the Burren is not so much that we have rare plants, it is the association of two quite different ecological species growing in the same habitat. In the summertime, you have a profusion of the native flora, more than in the springtime. And I suppose the most startling at this time of the year are the harebells, because here by the sea they seem to grow everywhere, and they flutter and dance in the breeze. I have a very wide interest in the Burren. My original interest was the archaeological interest, and then I suppose I changed from that to the plants. Now, at this stage of my life, I've lived here over 30 years and have really gone on the Burren almost every day. I'm not so much now interested in any one specific science, but I'm extremely interested in the connecting tissues, because all of the interests here are rather domino. You have one because of the other. And it is the reasons that one has such an influence on the other. That's what I'm interested in now.
A day's rambling around the Burren is bound to build up an appetite, and back at Glynn Castle, the kitchens are well prepared.
We can cater at the castle for anything up to 40 people. Tonight we have 10 people for dinner. We start with globe artichokes served with lemon butter. The second course then is cold cucumber soup. The cucumber soup is garnished with chopped mint. For the entree we have medley of seafood served on a bed of creamy cabbage with garden peas and potatoes tossed in mint and butter. For the dessert then we have a fruit terrine with blackcurrants, raspberries, strawberries, loganberries in it, and it is put together with a syrup made from pink champagne.
Tomorrow night you sadly dine in the hotel, which is really rather boring. But then the night...
Dinner at Glynn Castle is a memorable affair, renowned for its sumptuous fare, its rare ambience, and of course the famous geniality of its hosts. High above the battlements, the ancestral flag of the Geraldines flies proudly, as it has done for over 800 years.
Ryark, the longest-running documentary series on RTE. Its founder, Joe Dunn, priest and filmmaker, died last Tuesday.
BBC Two on Tuesday morning begins a season of British comedies celebrating the golden years of radio, with the first film starring Tommy Handley. It's That Man Again on Tuesday morning at 9.
This is a species of hummingbird. Intensely interesting is the mockingbird.
Intensely interesting is the mockingbird.
Notice its brilliant plumage.
Notice its brilliant plumage.
This bird must have been crossed with a cuckoo.
This bird must have been crossed with a Who, me?
And here, cuddling in its nest and only 1 day old, we find a tiny baby canary bird calling to its mother.
Mama!
Frequently, we come upon an elephant. Notice the intelligent expression on this old boy's face. That's better. Watch closely as our camera photographs for the first time the world's fastest animal in action, the Pingo Pongo spotted gazelle. Notice its beautiful markings. Whoa, slow down, girls. We want to see what you look like.
Now, boss?
No, not now. Typical of the island life are the... Hey, what are you fellas doing here in the tropics?
We're on a vacation. Yeah.
But all good things must come to an end. And with the soft, sweet strains of the native music still lingering in the air, we say farewell to this Isle of Enchantment as the sun sinks slowly in the west. As the sun sinks slowly in the west. As the sun sinks...
Now, boss?
Yeah, now.
Show was just too much. He just couldn't cope. He just.
Well, where is he?
Well, going around in ever-decreasing concentric circles, with the possibility that he might
fly up his own. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. We followed the trend. Yeah. How did you know he had? He was here earlier. Honestly, I saw him. George is his name.
Yes, George.
If that matters.
Yes.
And his owner is Willie Heffernan from Wicklow. Yes.
You see, he used to fly all around the place and land on Willie's shoulder.
Right.
That was at home. Yeah. Okay, and then a hawk came. You see, in the sky.
Yes.
And then he decided he would only fly about 4 feet by 4 feet, and he was very, very upset. And he used to stay on his shoulder virtually all the time, you know.
So you knew you had a psychologically damaged parrot.
You see, he wouldn't go out into the big wide open and the big wide world, and he was very, very traumatised by this hawk up in the sky, which was going to do for him.
Well, anyway, he's a parrot. He probably told his owner what was wrong with him.
But you see,
that hawk up there, he said, that fella is ruining me. I'm going into myself since he came in.
Many people who have cats, who have all of a sudden discovered that their cat is piddling in the house, wonder, why is my cat piddling in the house?
Indeed.
And the reason usually is that there's a big tomcat outside which has invaded their area, and so he decides, I'm not going to go out, I'm going to piddle in the house. And so here you have the same phenomenon which happened.
Oh, we have him. He's back, is he? Oh, where is he? Where is he? Shh, shh. Okay, take it easy. Come on, Willie. Okay. Oh, well done. You caught him. Ah, there he is. You thought this was all a gag. You thought it was a joke. There he is. This is Willie Heffernan from Bray. And this is George from Wicklow. Just you won't put him on your shoulder, no?
No.
Oh, the poor devil.
Initially, like to catch him later on.
Ah, the poor devil. Ah, there he is. So that what is he again? He's a
Patagonian conure.
Patagonian.
There. Now, George.
Ah, there you are.
At
There
last.
you are, George. Now you're grand. You're on the Late Show, son. First time. They'll all be delighted to see you. Don't like the way he's looking at me. Anyway, it was this hawk that upset him originally, and.
Yeah, and he when this hawk upset him, he decided that he wasn't going to, fly out. He decided to stick close to that particular shoulder.
Yes.
But now, you see, he's relaxed again.
Yes,
Isn't
but
it
what
wonderful?
treatment are you giving him, Rory?
Well, the problem was, we see, when Willie first got him, we got him from a pet shop.
Yes.
Willie runs a small nature reserve down in Rathdrum.
Yes.
So when he released him into the wild, it took a long period of time just to build up his confidence.
Yes.
So besides a lot of TLC and getting him to trust Willie implicitly, whatever, there isn't really a whole lot more you can do. We're not really into Valium for birds or whatever.
How about doing in the hawk? Which
Well,
is
no, you can't do that.
You can't do in the hawk.
No,
well, I thought it would relieve George.
That's an illegal act.
That's an illegal, is it? To kill a hawk?
Yes,
is
you're
it?
not allowed to do that.
Well, there you are. He'll have to get used to the hawk then and live with it in friendly cooperation. What a dirty beast. How dare you? You nearly took the hand off him. That happened to you. All right, Willie, thank you very much indeed. Goodbye, George. We hope you'll be better. Put yourself together now. That'll be all right. We now have a flying parrot around the studio and...
Exit parrot.
Exit parrot. Let's have... Where is he? He's all right. Leave him alone. Just ignore him for the moment. Don't tell us where he is. Just leave him for the moment. He's just having a little trip. He's all right. He'll be called from time to time. Grand. There he is. Now, just let him settle. Don't touch him. Just ignore him. Don't settle. Okay. Let's have Buttercup in now. Buttercup.
Big trouble in a small size.
Nobody's ever made such a fuss about a bath.
Careful, Shane. Starry eyes.
Take it easy.
And broken hearts.
You say you don't want me. I don't want you.
Men, they're not worth the space they take up.
Growing Pains, Wednesday at 8 o'clock on BBC One.
BBC Two's afternoon of World Championship Snooker covers the final between Stephen Hendry and Jimmy White.
which tonight uncovers the secret life of Graham Greene, focusing on a dark and confusing period during which he wrote some of his best-known work.
Do you know what's the best thing first thing in the morning? Absolutely.
Have you ever noticed just how many insurance companies there are, all claiming to be better than or different from each other? Yet the extra care approach of one company is different, with school safety programs for children, 24-hour emergency helplines for householders, and free car safety centers for motorists. Church and General, your personal insurer.
Is your favorite teddy worth a lot of money? Have you got old comics that could be worth a bundle? Find out in What's It Worth, a new weekly magazine that explores the world of collectibles and gives you a price guide. From furniture and toys to jewellery, offering you expert advice, valuable details, plus a useful know-how section. What's It Worth shows you this stiff teddy is worth over £3,000. And the value of your old comics? Find out in What's It Worth. At the start of a cold, reach for the hot lemon with the Beecham's formula. Put a smile back on your mug with Beecham's Hot Lemon.
Getting today's non-stick cookware really clean without scratching calls for a hard-working cleaner that's gentle on all surfaces. New Brillo Light. Because it's a detergent-filled pad, it works with your washing up liquid to cut through tricky cleaning jobs. Yet its unique woven fabric is gentle enough to use even on delicate surfaces. New Brillo Light. Today's non-scratch pad for today's surfaces.
Win a super family holiday for four in Disney World, or a stylish jacket from Kevin Costner's latest hit, The Bodyguard. Or knit this lady's mohair V-necked sweater in this week's all-channel RTE guide.
Hurry up!
I can't. I'm cleaning the bath thoroughly with this cream.
I'm reading sociology at the University of Ghana. 6 months from now, I'll be doing my finals. One of my options in sociology is criminology. And one of our lecturers is trying to talk me into going to this, but I don't think I want to. Simply because maybe I'm being lazy, but I don't want to have, responsibility of getting things organized. Once they've been organized, you can tell me to see that they go on as they should. That's what I'll do. This, I feel, is very characteristic of West Africa, and maybe even more so of Ghana, where people are reluctant to show any initiative. Sometimes you feel like they don't really care. I don't think it's that they don't care, but they're almost afraid of committing themselves and having to answer for it. I don't think it's really due to the colonial inheritance. It's more innate. It has to change if we're going to get anywhere. Because my father wanted the best education for me, and the best at the time could be found in Europe, he sent me to England. I went when I was 6, and I stayed with a lady, Mrs. Ellen Watson, and she had a kind of school where she kept foreign children and some English children, and I stayed there till I was 11. My father died in 1962, and I think, really, my mother was more or less lonely, and she wanted me back. And my guardian wasn't very pleased about this. He said, my mother was spoiling my chances. I had a chance of a place in a very good school, very good education.
J.S.G. Boggs is an artist who draws money.
A road to be established by the Prémontrés, the mother abbey of the Prémonstratensians. St. Norbert, who founded the abbey in 1121 and whom the Norbertine canons are also named after, later became the Bishop of Magdeburg, the city in which he died and was buried. Because Magdeburg became Protestant in the early 17th century, the holy relics of St. Norbert were transferred to Strahov in 1627. They're displayed in the chapel of St. Ursula and honored as holy relics of the patron saint of the Bohemians. The huge library now to be found at Strahov originated in the mid-13th century. The oldest books were written in the abbey's own scriptorium. The biggest expansion of the library took place under the abbot Johann Lohelius around 1600. At the end of the 30 Years' War, the Swedish stole books for a total value of 20,000 florins. The library is divided into 2 rooms, the theological and the philosophical room, connected by 2 corridors. Besides ancient works of philosophy, this room contains history and geography books as well as works on astronomy and meditation. A special bookcase was built for French encyclopedic volumes to give the work an even more impressive appearance.
En dat is een schrijftafel. Als het openklapt wordt, dan kan dat ook een stoel zijn of een trap. Zo. Dus dat, die had meerdere functies. En hier zie je ook de trap waarmee ze naar boven komen. Het is een trap op rolletjes, dus je kunt langs al die gasten leggen.
In 1950, there were about 130,000 books here, including 3,000 manuscripts and 2,500 incunabula. One of the most valuable works is the Strahov Evangelical book, written in the 9th century and illustrated with beautiful miniatures in the 10th century. There is also a codex from the 13th century with chronicles from Jarlok Vincenti, a travelogue from the 14th century by Frederick Barbarossa about his trip through Italy, and a late Gothic Sternbeck Bible from the 15th century. In later centuries, the printed book made its arrival, some with illustrations that were colored in by hand.
Ebenso die Statue des Johannes Evangelisten mit dem Beuteleinsmann ist auch das 15. Jahrhundert.
The theological room in Baroque style was built in 1671. The archive mentions that there were exactly 5,564 books 10 years after its founding. Under the rule of Joseph II, most of the abbeys were closed. Strahov bought entire abbey libraries. In addition to Bibles and New Testaments, the Church Fathers are also well represented with sermons and the lives of holy figures. Although the Reformation fills shelf upon shelf, the Counter-Reformation is best represented. The library, seized by the state during the communist regime, was reinstated to the abbey in 1991. Strahov has been restored to its former function, a religious center. The ranks have risen, and now there are 30 monks who often work as priests in the surrounding parishes. All the novices, postulants and scholastics live in the monastery. New novices come to Strahov every year.
The most important thing is that there's life in the abbey, that enough young people come who are called by the Lord and who will follow him and answer this call in their lives. But we also have to have space to live. That has to do with the material things in the abbey. Both aspects are important. One can't forget that there was no monastic life in Czechoslovakia for 40 years. The brothers who were in the abbey before 1950 lived apart from each other for 40 years. That's why we need to learn to live together. The communists didn't maintain anything. A lot was destroyed in the 40 years of their regime. Now we have to make our abbey livable again.
Deus adiuvat me, et Dominus susceptor est anime me. Magnificat anima mea Dominum, et exulta in spiritus meus, in Deo salutarimeo, viare espes in humilitatem ansigne sua, excelim exor beatam meritentum es generationes, quia hapem et illium agri potestas, et sanctum nomen Deus, et misericordia eius a progenie in progenies, dilettibus eum, et sibi potentia miseria suo, discensit super vos mente cultis sui, ne
V Teplí se modlí chor v kapli. Nejsou ve štalách, že? Nejsou v chorových lavicích.
Our work mainly focuses on spiritual edification. We have no shortage of work for our young brothers, but we do have a pressing shortage of priests. Young people are coming to us. We're happy about this and hope it will keep up. In the previous novitiate at Strahov, there were 10 young brothers. One of them already was a priest. Now we have 8 scholastics, 6 of who are becoming priests. Not all of the orders grow at the same rate. That's because some of the orders led a basically sleeping existence during the 40 years of communism.
Zpívejte Bohu velké jeho jméno, jeho jméno je Hospodin. Oslavujte Hospodina. Moment, takhle ne, uslyšet Hospoda. Oslavujte Hospodina, neboť je dobrý. Tady je kveta, neboť je tam skoro přes 4, to znamená jako hoří. No, neboť je dobrý.
Besides the library, there are still many other buildings and rooms that are rented out by the Abbey. The former chapter hall is now used as exhibition space by the National Museum for Literature. The fresco on the ceiling shows the miraculous healing by the shores of Bethsaida Lake. If the walls of Strahov could talk, they would speak of a turbulent history. More than 100 years after being built, the Roman Abbey church burnt down to the ground. It was rebuilt in Gothic style. The wars that followed led to the destruction of virtually the entire abbey. The abbey wasn't restored in its entirety until the 16th century, when it was reconstructed in the then popular Renaissance style. The contemporary restoration exposed the past, a tendency often seen in former communist countries. The work performed after the abbey was returned to its former function is proof that the best way to preserve cultural monuments is their restitution to religious orders.
Literally overnight, monastic life came to a sudden end. In the middle of the night, between the 13th and 14th of April in the year 1950, there was an armed raid. They came and took the monks away and didn't say where they'd taken them to. So that was the end of life in the monastery. Some of the monks were put in prison. Others were put in the military for indefinite terms. But the monks living in parishes were allowed to stay at first. Later, they were all put together in a few monasteries. After a while, they were released and were forced to do hard labor, which made priesthood next to impossible. The situation got a little better in 1968, during the Prague Spring. Many of the priests who had been forced to work could once again take up their religious duties. One of our priests returned to Strahov and became pastor here, but there weren't any monks anymore.
No other Eastern European country was hit harder by the persecution of the church than Czechoslovakia. Most of the current fathers had to practice their vow in secret. Today, Strahov is an example of ecclesiastical reconstruction. Future fathers are trained here for their spiritual community life, as well as for pastoral and apostolic work. That is the ideal symbiosis of the Norbertines, to be ready to do what the church needs where it needs it most. They want to form the link between the believers who are not part of the order and the Roman Catholic religious community. Sometimes there's a discrepancy between the rooms and the activities performed in them. The novices are, however, very attached to this painting. They jokingly call it the First Communion of Lenin.
Czechoslovakia has now become two separate republics, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Our abbey is a perfect example that Czech and Slovakian brothers can live together in harmony. There's one parish in Slovakia where our brothers work. Young people are also coming to us from Slovakia who want to join our monastic order.
Jo, tak děkoval matce, že tam máte trpělivost.
In 1990, the orders regained possession of their abbeys. But these were usually very run down. There was no funding for maintenance of the abbeys or for the monastic life. We're still waiting for items from the church to be returned. We're trying to renovate Strahov. We receive a government subsidy for the preservation of national monuments, but it is very low. Renting out rooms is another source of income. We use that money to repair the roofs, to buy new window panes and pipes. In short, we're making the abbey livable again.
The Abbey Church is dedicated to Mary's Ascension and since recently is called the Basilica. Built in Roman and restored in Gothic style, it was later destroyed. The church was completely reconstructed in 1742 after the French occupation of Prague. The style was Baroque with stucco work on the outside. The wall and ceiling paintings were completely restored by 3 generations of the Neunhorst family. Sculptures were made by Johann Anton Quitena and the Prague marble cutter Josef Lohrmann. The altar paintings are by Franz Karl Palk. The organ was completely rebuilt. Mozart once played it and found it to be an excellent instrument.
tebou, požehnaná jsi mezi ženami a požehnaný plod života tvého, Ježíš. Byl si v chrámě nalezla, obětovala.
Svatá Mária, Matka Božia, pro za nás hriešných, teraz i v hodinu smrti našej. Amen.
Zdravá Mária, milosti plná, Pán s tebou, požehnaná si mezi ženami a požehnaný je plod života tvojho, Ježíš.
Svatá Mária, Matka Božia, pro za nás hriešných, teraz i v hodinu smrti našej. Amen.
Zdravá Mária, milosti plná, Pán s tebou, požehnaná si mezi ženami a požehnaný je plod života tvojho, Ježíš.
Svatá Mária, Matka Božia, pro za nás hriešných, teraz i v hodinu smrti našej. Amen.
Ave Regina,
Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, espes nostra salve. A te clamamus, exules Filii Heaven.